One.
Welcome to Dental Unscripted. Where Mike Dinzio and Paula Quinn break down the practice ownership journey, one episode at a time. Starting up, buying, and running a successful dental practice.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dental Unscripted. Good morning. Good morning. If you're listening to this on the way into work, hope you got your coffee and you're ready for a lot of filling and drilling. But we are here today on podcasting. Got an interesting topic today. Shouldn't be a super long one, but it is going to be informative. Of course, I've got my co-host and co-pilot, Paula Quinn. Hey, what's up, Paula?
Hey, what's up?
And then we've got Tyler Jones from Health Cell Fetterman, one of our partners in crime on all these acquisitions and startups. What's up, Tyler?
Hey, how are you?
Good, man. You've been on the program a couple times, so you're like a seasoned podcaster now.
I think so.
He's never been on me, so.
Yeah, I know.
This is the first time with Paula and Tyler show? Wow.
Tyler.
Nice. Well, for those of you that do follow the programs, Tyler has educated us on all kinds of fun stuff. We go back and look at some old episodes. If I remember right, it was kind of did like a negotiation one, the art of negotiation. We did, I think, an LOI one once, or maybe purchase and sale. I don't know. We've done a bunch. Tyler, do you remember all those?
I think there was a lease one once, and I think we did like a Halloween War Stories one.
Halloween. I love those. Those are fantastic. But today we're going to talk all about entity setup and status as you go into starting up or acquisitions, different answers, different things you need to think about. And you all always have the question of, when do I need my entity and how do we set it up? And do I need to know my name, my official name? And it's all the questions. It's like these little things. I think everybody's super excited about just starting a company once they kind of in their minds are like, I'm going into business. This is amazing. I should set up my entity. It's kind of premature. So I think we're going to have some cool tips and tricks here for the day and for the episode. Before we get into that, subscribe, like, follow, all the things. We're streaming on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram right now. You can watch these episodes on all of those. But of course, I think we're on Spotify and iTunes. I just said YouTunes. All the things. And so
iTunes.
iTunes, YouTunes, all the tunes. So we would just love for you guys to continue to follow, and we got some good content coming out this month. So Tyler, first question, I'll go. Paul, I know you have some too. The entity, when I say entity, I mean kind of like the federal entity, the big boys, because there's kind of lots of layers here. Like, can you just break down the layers first? Like, because people, when they say entity, it's like, well, what do you mean? Is it, so break that down, buddy.
Yeah, I guess usually one of the first questions a client asks me, whether they're doing a startup or buying a clinic, is I need to form an entity. A lot of times they're confused when they'll say, I need to form my S corporation. And we'll talk about what the difference between those two things is. The advice I always give my clients is like, break it out into two things. There's the entity you make, and that's governed by state law. What type, what its name is, what other registrations it needs. And then there's the elections you make for how you'll be taxed. And so a lot of people say, I want to be an S corporation, but really an LLC or a PS or an Inc. or any type of entity for the most part part can elect to be taxed as an S corporation. So really, a lot of times the first conversation is not what do you want to be, it's more choosing the state entity that you want to pick, which is often for startups and acquisitions, an LLC or a PLLC, depending on the state. And then it's a conversation later on about if you want to be taxed like an S corporation or not. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense to me.
I got mine. I have a question on that. When I got mine, I was an LLC for a minute, like maybe a year, and then they switched me over to S corp. What happens there? Is it
most likely in your case you were an LLC the whole time because for state law purposes you were an LLC, but your CPA made an election later on for you to be taxed like an S corporation. So your entity never changed, your
Correct.
tax classification changed.
okay?
Usually the reason CPAs do that is some combination of depreciation and income justifying the election later on as opposed to right away.
Okay.
And there were some changes with the first Trump administration that kind of shook things up a little bit from what we historically done.
Okay.
Nice.
So most go in as an LLC, but then the way they, for layperson's sakes, file their taxes, they could be filing as a S or a sole proprietor. You have to change your name for that. You can elect.
Yeah, you're always, Dr. Smith, PLLC, John L. Smith, PLLC. And then it's just a matter of changing how you file your taxes, which is what the S corporation S election conversation is.
It makes total sense.
No, I was actually a little confused about the difference between a PLLC and an LLC. Is there an easy way to say what that is or what that means? Now we're getting into your accounting side of your brain, not the attorney side.
Nerd.
Yeah, I mean, the fun part is that it's that's where being an attorney and a tax attorney is fun and interesting, but every state's different. Some states do not have the PLLC concept. Like Oregon does not have PLLCs. They just have LLCs. And so it depends on your state on if that exists. Regardless of if it does or doesn't, the questioning kind of comes down to in each particular state, and I have like a little chart I keep by my desk, what are dentists and providers required to practice under? Some are required to practice under a PLLC.
What does the P stand for, Tyler? What is
Professional limited liability company? And it's just a little demarcator that it's owned by a doctor, an architect, an attorney.
So is it like a DMD or a DDS? It's kind of the same thing.
It's the same. It's just a matter of the state makes some distinction between an LLC and a PLLC. Like in Florida and Arizona, you can practice under an LLC just like a dry cleaner. They don't care. But then there are states who make that distinction.
We don't care about much here. I got to be honest.
So basically, if you have a PLLC, they come after you for more money because you're probably going to make more money.
Maybe,
it
but
puts you into a different department.
It's honestly just a naming convention thing. For the most part, there's no material difference from a state perspective between an LLC or a PLLC. It just depends on their corporate practice rules on if doctors need to use a certain type.
Wow.
No wonder these dentists come out confused. They already are like, I don't even know.
Yeah,
it's hard. Like a lot of times, like I'll be doing a deal in a state where there's like Washington, for example, and we have PLLCs up here, and the dentists will come in and they're so proud and they go, "Oh, I made my own LLC," and I'll go, "That's great."
Good job.
You have to switch it to a PLLC to be compliant. So, which is no big deal.
Yeah,
no big deal. Nothing probably can be not undone.
Okay, so remember that these entities are owned usually just by the one doctor, and that doctor is never going to sue themselves for choosing the wrong kind of entity. So it's pretty easy to fix any mistakes for them.
Okay, so essentially you got to file for an entity. Okay.
Right.
So, and then first you got to figure out the type. And then once you file for an entity, you talked a lot about state but there's some layers here of who wants your tax dollars, right? So federal, state, and local. Sometimes I've actually seen even another one, which is like I don't know,
County,
like a county. Yeah, exactly.
township.
Yeah, it's a township. It's like everybody wants to kiss the ring, Tyler. So like we're gonna get to timing here in a second,
Or they want you to kiss the ring. They don't want to kiss yours.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. We all got to kiss the ring all the way up, and there's lots of kissing of layers of rings, and of course, federal has the biggest ring you got to kiss, but it goes down from there. But Tyler, there are layers here to this, right?
Right. And so once you form your entity, which normally you get back in a few days once you file it, then you have to start registering your entity for the different government agencies, right? And usually the one your bank cares the most about is the IRS. They want you to get what's called an EIN, an employer identification number. Sometimes it's called a taxpayer identification number, a TIN. Those are the same. So you usually get those right away. But then, fortunately or unfortunately, the state and the county and the cities, they don't really want CPAs and attorneys filing the applications for those. They want the actual doctor filing it so that they can be set up in their payment portals, if that makes sense. And so
Totally makes sense.
Usually a good attorney in a dental practice market will have a list and say you need to set up your L&I and your employment security, your unemployment. You need to get your county business license. You need to get your state business license. It kind of gives the doctor a punch list of accounts they need to set up once their entity is formed.
Okay, I want to back up for a second. Can I? Is this a good spot?
Sure.
Okay. Because I think you did mine, so I don't even know what the heck I did. So the EIN, so you apply, you form your entity, and then your EIN is because you apply with the IRS with your entity.
Correct. You couldn't get an EIN without having formed an entity already.
Okay. And then, because where I always come in is, with credentialing, we need the SS4 form, and then everyone never knows where that SS4 form is. So I always say, well, who formed your entity? But it's really who filed with the federal, your entity with the IRS.
Correct. Like a lot of the times for clients, I'll get their EIN for them, so I have it. But there are a lot of clients increasingly who will do it themselves. And that SS4 is a form that they filled out when they applied with the IRS. Okay. And you'll need that a lot during your transition or acquisition for exactly what you said. Banks want to see it. When you're getting credentialed, they want to see it. So it becomes increasingly important throughout the process.
There's a lot of paperwork that we always tell them in our checklist. There's a lot of like paperwork you need to like create a little file on your computer and just throw all the crap that Tyler does for you in that Tyler, folder.
When you file this for them, do you say you need to keep track of this SS4 form? Because I feel like they never know. They don't even know it exists. They don't.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely give the clients a punch list of things that they're going to want to keep tabs on.
Okay.
Most of my clients have me do it, so I save it just religiously anyways. So it's always there. But I think your point is well taken that if they have their CPA or a friend do it,
someone's got it.
Someone, you just want to save all the paperwork because increasingly it's like a regulatory environment. You can't even open a bank account anymore without a ton of paperwork. And so it's always surprising how many people feel entitled or want to see that form when you're trying to do transactions.
Even if you provided a checklist, Tyler, it's a good chance that people just blow it off. But
because they're so stressed out, they have so much going on, they're not going to remember. So it's like a really common thing. Probably every week I get 5 or 6 people saying, Tyler, can you send me my operating agreement? Tyler, can you send me my SS4?
And look, I can't even knock. Like I ask my professionals all the time for stuff because whatever. So you got it. But I
feel like we should add this to the checklist to close, Michael, or not checklist to close. Sorry. You should add this to your startup repertoire where it's like, because you're getting them way, way early. So saying, when you reach out to Tyler, when you reach out, like, here, you have to save these things
Yeah.
before
Well,
they even.
I think that's a good place to pivot, is just kind of like when we should be doing all this. And there's two paths, right? As always, startup acquisition. And so to your point, Paula, on startups, yeah, like the moment of truth is you need to get your stuff dialed before you sign a lease and take out a loan. That is like a formalized document, both of those that Tyler helps you review. And you can't just put your name on a lease or your name on a bank loan. And so, Tyler, when do you like that? That's typically when I kind of push the envelope on startups. It's like, dude, we're getting pretty close to signing a lease. You need to get your stuff ready.
Yeah, I always tell people that you can make your entity and make it a real bona fide business entity and get your EIN. You know, the whole process can take anywhere from a couple days to a week or so. So it's not a huge timing issue on a startup. I always tell people that once you feel like you're going to start submitting LOIs, or you think that there's a good chance that your broker has found the space for you, that you should go ahead and form your entity, because A, you're going to want to give it to the landlord for drafting the lease. B, you're going to want it ready for getting all the insurances in place that you're going to need for your lease, like your liability insurance. And three, it's usually around then that the banker starts saying, hey, we're going to really start papering your loan and opening it up and getting you accounts, and they're going to need it. So I always tell people that it's no big deal if you do it early. It's usually only $70 a year to renew it. But I tell people that it doesn't really get you any extra miles to form it early. So I just tell people to sit tight until they really feel like they're, in the startup context at least, until they feel pretty certain that they found a space.
Well, let me ask this. Just being a dentist, even if you're an associate, sometimes you might be a 1099, a W-2, you may moonlight in multiple offices. Should you have an LLC already? Just you're a dentist? Like, no?
Well, if you're an employee, a true employee, an LLC wouldn't be that helpful to you because you can't run your wages through the entity. If you are an independent contractor, putting aside whether you should be one or not, most people do form an entity to run their expenses in through that. So a lot of times I'll have clients and they're kind of familiar with the process already. They've formed one from when they were an associate, and that's fine too.
Okay. Well, then I'll just to the next question. Like, we talked a bit about this before, but like, so I'm an independent contractor. I'm out there. I have an LLC. A few years later, I decide to buy a practice. Can I just use that LLC? Like, what?
Yeah, I think the official answer is most of the time, yes. There are some nuances to it. Like, you'll want to figure out, well, was that LLC an S corporation? Did we lose our S corporation status because we haven't been filing tax returns with it since we maybe didn't use it a lot recently? I'm a big fan of fresh starts. So in my practice, I generally tell people that the benefit you'll get by setting up a new account, new payroll accounts, everything by forming a new entity generally outweighs the mileage of trying to cobble together all the old stuff you need from your old entity. Some people are really thorough and they have it all. And if that's the case, a lot of times you can reuse your entity, but more often than not, the entity's lapsed. They haven't used it in a couple years. And usually the costs and the time of getting it up and going are outweighed by the ease of just forming a new one.
Okay.
So that kind of,
and also a lot of the times the banks, if the entity already had tax returns and business running through it, when they're doing their loan, they need to see all that stuff. And a lot of times those questions become overwhelming versus just saying, I'm going to form a new entity to do this transaction. And the bank goes, great, that's way easier.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think about that banking thing as
because they get confused who their client is. Is their client the person, or is it the entity that's already had some business being run through it? And a lot of times it always works out fine. It's not a gating item, but it just prompts more questions.
Yeah, it does. That makes sense to me. Fresh starts. I would be a fan of that. I was thinking about acquisition, so we kind of covered startups, and then we kind of went down a different path, pivoting back to the timing milestones of an acquisition. I suppose it's pretty similar. Like we just to recap on the startups, it's like once you get past the LLC or past the LOI, and you start really getting into meaningful conversations with an attorney's help like yourself, that's when you're going to want to start really getting serious about the entity. But with an acquisition, it's a little different. But
I think with acquisitions, my opinion is it's kind of more accelerated because the way the marketplace is, at least in kind of the states and areas where I practice, the timelines on these deals are so much faster, right? They used to close 90 days, 120 days from the LOI, and now a lot of the brokers want to close 30 or 60 days after an LOI.
They want to. I don't know.
They want to. Whether that happens or not is sometimes a different question. And when I represent sellers, they want to close soon. And so I always tell people there's always this weight on acquisitions of, Tyler, I don't want to form the entity until I finish due diligence. And in that situation, I tell people you may need to bite the bullet and form the entity because you're going to need it for your bank loan, for MPI reasons, for credentialing, which you guys do for people, for opening up bank accounts, for setting up payroll and things like that. And a lot of those things, just the timelines on them do not run concurrently if you're waiting 2 weeks to finish your due diligence. So I always tell people in a startup, we know exactly when it's probably the best time, but on an acquisition, I say just form it. And if you end up not using it, you can use it again in the future. But you'll be way happier that you incurred that cost and got as much time with it for all the paperwork you have to do than trying to jam it all in an abridged timeline.
Yeah.
So that's usually a big thing that I'm talking to clients about right out the gate is, should we form it right now so you can have as much time as possible to get things up and going?
Okay, so that's perfect. So we covered kind of type of entity. Once you have the entity, then you got to register the entity. We also talked about timelines, kind of milestones, whether you're doing a startup or acquisition. Let's just talk about like the elephant in the room. Not really, but like who can do this for them, and how much roughly are people paying to do this? And the reason I ask this is because sometimes I get it like, can my CPA do it? Is my attorney? And I always say, get your attorney on this. Then they start asking a bunch of tax questions. I'm like, well, shit, I don't know. Just call Tyler. What's the answer there with that? Like, who's doing this work?
I would say that like 10 years ago, it was exclusively legal, and the attorneys would form the entities, and then they'd call the CPAs and say, do you want to make an S election now? Do you want to wait? And that's how it normally works if you've got a really good dental specific team around you, because your advisors, your attorney, your CPA, they all know each other. So it's just quick little emails and phone calls, and it's like a real team effort, which is the best way to handle it. I'm the first to be honest with people that although it's technically attorney work, there are a lot of CPAs who will do it, and sometimes they'll do it cheaper than an attorney can, and that's fine. It is technically set up so that an individual can do it on their own. And in the world of AI and ChatGPT, I have a lot of clients who successfully do set up their own entity on their own. I will tell you though that the cost of fixing something that's broken is usually much higher than the cost of just doing it right the first time. And so I tell people you're more than welcome to do it on your own and just send me the stuff once you've formed it and got all your licenses. And some are successful and really want to do that. They have just this idea that they can learn everything. And then you have others who.
Wait, are we talking about credentialing right now or setting up an entity? Because it
setting
sounds
up
like
your
the same
entity to get all your licenses and your different.
No, I know. I was making a joke because the world of, I mean, I'm just going to say this, guys, as you're, listening to this, is like, look, it does cost money to get into business. That should not be a shocking comment. Getting in the business costs money. It should cost money. And to do things the right way, there's a cost to that. There's a cost to my team with credentialing. There's a cost to Tyler and his brain. And look, like if you could do it, you're for sure. Like, could you do it? I could change my own brakes too. I used to do it. Would I have to run to AutoZone 17 times because it didn't work right or didn't have the right wrench? Hell yeah. It took the whole day to freaking do it, or drain the freaking oil. I don't do that shit anymore, but, and guess what? If you do it and you take it to someone like a Quick Lube, they're probably doing it better. And so like, it's like at some point you do got to relinquish that. But
well, and to Tyler's point, the mess up is way more.
It costs you way more. That's right.
I know one time my dad did somebody's and he had never done one on his car before, and he ended up, now listen, I'm not a car person, but he punctured the drum, I think.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
That's the kiss of death. It's over.
Dude, it was over. It was over. And then it ended up causing a whole nother fortune. It was like, should have just drove the car.
Stripping that nut with the oil pan, it's done. You're over.
I mean, I know not. I can say I've never changed my oil, but that just hit home. I was like, yes, that is way more expensive to fix than just.
It totally is.
I always say, like, I don't want to make things always about money and fees, but I know how much or how hard it is to be a doctor starting their own practice, whether that's an acquisition or a startup. And so the thing I tell people is, at the end of the day, if you have a really good team around you, like a dental specific attorney or a dental specific CPA or advisors like you guys, no one is making a living forming entities. It is not a lucrative thing to do. It's so fast. It truly is form driven. And so what I tell people is don't think about it as like a cost in and of itself. Most of your professionals are likely offering you some sort of bundled rate for services or a flat fee, and just make sure that it's included in that. So if your attorney says, oh, I'm going to do your transition for these fees, just say, does that include the entity formation? And a lot of times they'll say, oh, it's an extra $500 for that, or whatever their fee is, or $1,000, or every attorney's different. But get a sense on if it's sitting inside the bundle of services already. And if it's not, they probably offer a package where it is, and see if that makes sense for you. But I will tell you that usually what happens when people do it on their own is they get to closing or they're getting ready to sign the lease, and I start getting papered with questions of, Tyler, I guess I need an operating agreement, or Tyler, I guess I checked this box wrong. What do I do? And so it's pretty rare when people do it themselves that there isn't some kind of cleanup on the front end. But again, it's not.
So what are we talking? How much are we talking about here? Like, what's a range?
Back to the 500 again.
Oh, was that already said? Sorry, is it?
Yeah, no, it's okay. I don't want to speak for everyone, but if you're using me for buying a clinic or doing a lease or a startup, I generally just bake it in for $500 next, because it's about an hour of a paralegal time and getting all the licenses and stuff like that. There are others who I'm sure charge more, and
okay.
But if it's part of the package of services that you're buying, it really shouldn't materially increase the cost a ton, because it makes the process easier for the professionals, not harder. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally.
It would be like saying I'm remodeling my house, but I'm going to do the trim and everyone else and someone's going to do everything else. The carpenter would go like, no, I don't want to deal with that. I'll just do the trim for this amount.
Yes. Yeah. You must have worked with me before on a job, a remodel of a house once. But that was me, and it did cost more. So look, guys, let's not overcomplicate this topic. I think unless there's anything else the team would like to bring up, it kind of puts we're at the final here of content on setting up an entity. But any last minute little things. I mean, Tyler's fantastic at it. There was one thing that kind of popped in my head, that who should do it, CPAs, attorneys. I was thinking of like operating agreements, buy-sell agreements, So when you form an entity, there's other things that go with that, or at least should go with that. And so for me,
That
it's like if
agreement. Yeah.
yeah, like well, I know, but like a CPA shouldn't be doing an operating agreement.
Don't you have to
So
do
like
minutes every year, Tyler? Don't you have to like do minutes on your corporation? I know
If you're a, yeah, so if you're an LLC or a PLLC, which are effectively the same thing in most states, generally the idea of minutes is just an annual report you file with the state to renew your entity for the year. And that's not hard, or there's a form that most states have for it. If you're a professional service corporation or a corporation, you do have to do minutes every year. That's why generally we advise, barring some exceptional circumstances, people not to do that, because the annual maintenance on it is more complicated, and you have to have a board of directors, and then it's usually all just one person serving in all the roles. And so the administrative weight of it is too clunky for one doctor. There are some other things, like most states don't require an operating agreement for a single member LLC. But your bank will want to see one, right? So that's a lot of times what happens. People say, I formed my own entity, and then it's a week before closing, and they go, but I need an operating agreement, which is no big deal. So I always just tell people,
just pay for it. Let somebody else.
Yeah. The only time entity formation can be complicated is if you're doing something sophisticated, like a big partnership structure or things like that.
I was just going to say, it's like all the rules of this probably episode go out the window if we're talking about
partnerships and multi-practice ownership and multiple owners and different disciplines in the same clinic. That's a different conversation, and is much more, complicated. Okay. The other thing I would say is, just to kind of maybe tie it back to my first comment I made, is usually the first question I get is, Tyler, I want to be an S corporation. And I tell people, especially if you're buying a clinic and maybe you're single because of some various tax reasons, and the clinic is smaller, like not likely to generate a huge amount of revenue to you the first couple years, usually a sign that the CPA is not being very thoughtful, and the advice they're giving is that they want the person to make an S election.
Yeah,
so there's been some changes in the last few years where if you're buying a smaller clinic hoping to grow it, you should definitely talk to someone who knows dental and is up to date on the laws, because you can save a lot of money avoiding the S election for a few years, like what Paula was talking about, and growing into it. And unfortunately, there's just a lot of professionals out there who they make the S election without really thinking about it, because that's the way it used to be, and it ends up costing people quite a lot of money. So I always tell people that,
good point.
Despite what you may read on the Reddit threads, it is worth taking a minute and thinking about it.
So it sounds like just the advice alone is worth the $500 to $1,000 just to get.
I think so, but I would. So.
I mean, what's worth it to you, Paula?
The operating agreement, the this, the that. Just pay the money, and
it is complicated.
You're gonna lose all your information anyways, and at least you have a backup. Tyler,
the thing I always tell people is that when they start these process, time is their currency, right? Because they have time. They're just an employee. A lot of the times they haven't started their families yet, so they think that they'll always have this time, right? But then as their careers advance, they start collecting kids and dogs and getting partners, and they're busier at work. They're going to regret how much time they put in to this, and they're going to be regretful that there isn't someone who did it for them that just has it saved somewhere for them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we've hit that point at 33 minutes talking about entities. You thought it was going to be a snooze fest, Tyler. It turns out this topic is a lot more complicated.
At least to us, because we get asked all these questions all the time, and we're like, "Wait, am I saying?"
No, exactly.
It's as complicated as you want to make it. That's what I tell you.
Well said. All right. Well, with that being said, folks, hopefully that got some answers. I know Tyler would love to help you. His contact info will be below into the descriptions. He is nationwide and can help you set up entities. He is based out of Washington, just like I am, but serves the community, dental community and vet community. Probably more that I don't know, but those are two big areas of his expertise, just like us. So reach out to Tyler if you need some help on this entity stuff, and you'll be, sounds like, in great hands.
Cool. Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Michael, for having me.
All right. Thanks for being
As
on.
always, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. And again, like, subscribe.
Uh-oh. The host froze. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever. Great to see you. All right, Tyler, let's exit. We'll leave Michael on here.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Let us know how you like the show. Rate us on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe and follow for more.